So, a couple days ago, somebody asked me, why does Hearts of Iron 4 start in 1936? After a little bit of research online, couldn't really find anything about it. So, I've kind of come to the conclusion myself on why Hearts of Iron 4 starts in 1936. And please, when I finish this, make sure to go in the comments section below and tell me if you guys agree with me or if there's a specific reason you think the game starts in 36. It would be really appreciated. So we get to the question, why does Hearts of Iron 4 have a 1936 and 1939 start date? Why not have a 1933 start date from when Hitler came to power in Germany? Or 1932 for when FDR got reelected? Or even 1931 for when Japan invaded Manchuria? I believe the date was selected because at this point, not just Germany was causing tension in the world. When Germany remilitarized the Rhineland 36, that was a huge event. But pretty much all the Axis powers were doing major events as well. Japan had an attempted coup in 1936 as well, commonly known as the 226 incident, which if you don't know, it's where Japan essentially had an attempted military coup. Then of course we have the Spain Civil War, and Italy's annexation of Ethiopia. And not just the Axis were really doing stuff either. France had general strikes where communist revolutionaries in the nation began holding rallies throughout the nation. Soviet Union purge was into full effect, and many British Commonwealth nations were starting to have big movements themselves to try to gain independence from the British. Long story short, 1936 was the year where everything in the world really started going towards the inevitable path down the road of the largest loss of human life that the world had ever known. So, when we get to gameplay reasons, it's more of, in my opinion, it's before 1936. 1936 had so many world-changing events that set it down the path. I think that's one reason it starts in 36. But let's talk about the gameplay idea if we were to start in 35. As of right now, the only country that has nothing much to do is the USA. And they're still building up though. The USA can't build military factories, they can still do some basic focuses, get some really cool bonus research, and build a big navy and rival Japan and really kick their butts all over the Pacific if you know what you're doing. When you really get down to it, in 1935, the biggest event for the United States was FDR banning flights over the White House. The UK had the first Hawker Hurricane flight. That was really the second biggest event in the world at that time. And then, the only major things that really happened in that time was Italy declared war on Ethiopia, so if you were playing Italy, you could actually set up invasion plans if you wanted to start in 35, and Germany announced the rearmament. Outside of that, there's really no land grabs, there's no war, there's no really anything, and the world could have still gone either way. For gameplay reasons, it just gets boring and boring and boring. So, for 1939 start date, I think it's kind of obvious that was the start of World War II. That's kind of obvious why that's there. But for 1936, I think that's just the main reason. 1936 is kind of in that sweet spot where all the nations in real world history began realizing something was coming. They didn't know what, they didn't know how big a war would be, but they knew war with Germany was coming. And the only person it seemed that didn't know that was Neville Chamberlain, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I believe he was doing the best thing he thought for his people. But, come on man, how can you trust Hitler? But 1936 for gameplay reasons is that sweet spot, like I said. That is the point when everyone starts rebuilding. That is the point when all the land grabs of Germany, that is when Japan prepares the invasion of China. That is when the United States, starts really working on Navy dockyards to think we might be going to war with the Japanese. And the tension in the Pacific and the Atlantic and Europe just skyrocketed over 1936 compared to 35 where nothing happened. So, for gameplay reasons, it's just simply that. If we started in 1935, it would be boring. There's nothing much to do. And then France would have more time to build up. And if you play a multiplayer match against Germany, if you're France, you have more than enough time to build up forts already on the Belgium line, and then you're pretty much impenetrable. And unless the German player uses Siege Buster and a mix of very heavy tank divisions, which is kind of difficult for them to get in World War II, it's kind of simple from there. It's just balance reasons, because it gives everyone a fair time to start, gives Germany time to get their factories, but not too much time to go absolutely nuts with their production. Also gives time to the United States to build up, and so on. So, I know it's kind of a long and very boring reasoning, in my opinion, on why the game is supposed to start in 1936. It's simply just because of balance, and anyone outside of Germany, Italy, and maybe Japan have nothing to do until 1936 if you started before that date. Everything that happened in the world happened in 1936 that set the stage for World War II. So guys, that's pretty much it. Like I said, tell me in the comment section below if you agree with me and why you think, if I'm wrong, why do you think HOI4 started in 1936? Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you guys next time. Stay awesome.